stories.
Real stories.
From real midwives. This is Head on View.
Day in the life. She said what? These are our stories.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Head on View Podcast. So today we are talking about burnout and self-care. I'm Carly.
Laura,
Penny,
and Hannah.
So we have got a little special guest to us today, Hannah. She's not like an expert on burnout or stuff or anything, but she's just here hanging out. And Hannah,
the latest book is coming out. How to avoid it.
Hannah is also a nurse and midwife, and she just likes to talk too. So we thought, why not come and join us
True words were never spoken.
some little chats. Yeah. So why don't you just do a quick 2-second intro, Hannah, so we know who you are.
Okay, so I, as Carly said, I'm a nurse and a midwife, and I've been working for 8 years now. I have neonatal experience, having done a postgraduate degree in the neonatal unit, and I'm just here to have a chat with these guys.
How many neonatal code blues have we done together, Hannah?
Last count was what, 4?
4?
That's for another podcast. I feel like you should introduce your book now.
So I think especially for our profession, like self-care is so important because, you know, what we're dealing with every day is, although some days it is normal, but it's not. You know, a lot of people don't have jobs where you can basically go there and someone can die. And that can sort of be like, yeah, like, although that's not a normal, you know, thing to happen, it's like that's something that can happen. And, you know, we give so much of ourselves like emotionally and mentally that I think it's so important that, yeah, and physically that we look after ourselves, or you do end up, you know, you see these old nurses, not to be mean, but you do see these old nurses who have worked, you know, for like 100 years and they're so grumpy and you're just like, oh my God, you hate your job. Why are you still here? Like, yeah. And I'm always like, I don't want to be like that.
So I don't even think back when, you know, when they traditionally, like historically, nurses trained in a certain way, say back in the 50s or the 60s, I don't think self-care was even something that was spoken about.
No, and I feel especially it's such a, you know, hashtag self-care. But, you know, like, no, like it really is. Like it's just like, oh, hashtag self-care, have a bath, have a bottle of wine, use a face mask. Oh, yeah, that's great. But it is something that's important. And it's not just posting a selfie with you in the bath and your bottle of wine, your face mask, going health, like hashtag self-care. Like we actually do need to look after ourselves properly to make sure that we aren't burning out and that we can be successful in our jobs and not turn into some mental health mess.
It's interesting what you say about a bottle of wine, because I know all of you bitches, we can all knock back a few. But I actually have stopped, except for the Christmas New Year's period. But when I work, I try not to drink anymore after work. Try not to, because I found that it made me feel worse, to the point, like it wasn't like, oh, go home and have a Chardonnay or a sparkling or whatever it is that I'm going to have, like a gin. But then actually addressing the issues I have that day, I'm just drinking to try and forget.
Like you're just sort of like numbing it and you're not, dealing with it.
I do other things. I exercise, or I try and, you know, take the dogs for a walk, or I try and do something else, which I count as sort of like mini self-care, like looking after yourself in like small pockets.
I was doing the same, Laura. In the middle of lockdown, I was drinking more than I normally do.
Shut the front door.
And then I thought, Hannah, you can't be finishing a bottle of wine every night after work. That's not going to help.
Yes.
It's going to make your job harder to do.
Yeah, getting up in the morning is going to be 100 times worse.
Yeah.
So did you just give up drinking, or did you kind of go, I'm going to find something to replace this that will kind of help me, instead of just being like, I need to sink a bottle of wine?
Well, I found a middle ground originally. I was like, all right, I'll have a drink and I'll go for a walk.
Drink once.
And then slowly I kind of cut right back on the alcohol. I was like, I only drink in social situations. I won't drink kind of by myself crying in ISO.
I was like that too. I couldn't find drinking by myself work. So when I could catch up, I'd then make it up with my 1 or 2 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
But then I found I was able to debrief as well. Or when we had our Zoom chats, having just a glass of wine while talking.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, I definitely think like talking to people, you like finding that good group, and you don't necessarily have to work with them, but just finding people sort of in the same industry. I feel that really helped. You can just go and have a good bitch and be like, oh my gosh.
Like when they say find your tribe, like I think especially for midwives and nurses or anyone that works in emergency or like police or anything like that, we've got a really weird, dark sense of humor, and we will often talk about things that your normal person, and I found this because I'll say things to my sister and she's not a healthcare professional, and she'll be like, what did you say? Like she's shocked, where we talk about things quite differently.
But I feel you have to.
Yeah, and I think that's why you find the right people, so you can talk about death and birth and bleeding and emergency situations and things that have affected you. You talk about, if I talk to my mother about it, she'd freak out and hang up the phone.
Well, the thing is, you can't take this all on like emotionally yourself. It's too much. You need to, There's so much. Dog's still going crazy. Still shut outside. Yeah. So.
Last podcast.
Yeah. So I think another important thing for self-care is also when you think about, so how many times do you see people on a shift and they're like, oh my God, I haven't had a break. I haven't weed. I haven't had a drink. I've worked overtime every day this week and haven't got paid for it. And I'm sort of like, you know what? You've got to advocate for yourself because no one else is going to. No one else is going to go to, you know what, Penny, take your break. Or Laura, make sure you have a drink. And I think it's like that needs to kind of come under the self-care banner of looking after yourself at work. I think we need to remember this is a 24-hour job. You know what I mean? Like if you don't get something done, like who cares? Like if as long as it's not urgent and need to be done right away. But I mean, if it's just something that you're like, this has to be done over the next 2 days, great. It's not on you to do everything, but you need to look after yourself. If you're running around working, 10 hours straight with no break, do you think you're going to be helpful to other people or to yourself? Yeah.
I find it funny that I can hold my bladder for like 8 hours at work, but if I'm at a pub with my girlfriend.
Yes. So my husband said it all the time. He's like, what do you do in your work? And I'm like, oh, at work I just hold it. Because I can't be running out to pee when I'm like a baby's about to come out or something. And he's like, well, how come you've won like 5 times in the last hour? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just weird. At work you just, gotta wait. Can't rush out now.
And then I pee 100 mils and think, oh God, I would have failed the trial avoid policy. Because I haven't drank enough.
Or you pee like 1.2 litres, you're like, oh dear.
Either.
I have not weighed in 10 hours. There's something wrong with my body.
I agree because I do a couple of in-charge shifts and I always say to every staff member, you need to take your break. So I don't care if you go have dinner at 8 o'clock and you take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but you need to have a break. And I say to new grads as well, as long as your babies and your mums are pink and breathing by the end of the shift, then you've done a good job.
Yeah.
You can always just hand this thing over to the next person. Try to do as much as you possibly can with every other factor, but you can't do it all.
Yeah. And don't be too hard on yourself. Sometimes you'll take over and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I haven't done this. And I'm like, well, it's fine. It's not urgent. You didn't do this. It's no worries. We'll do it.
They'll try and do everything and apologise for not. And then you get the ones who are like, why haven't you done everything? Because they don't want to do it. And you just have to learn to brush off those ones and pick out who's going to pick on you no matter what.
Yeah,
like you could literally have done everything and some of them will still find things that, they don't want to do.
Yeah. And if it's part of your own self-care during your shift, I've found that I've said to people, I didn't do that, but like I had 10 minutes to sit down. So I sat down instead of doing a baby bath, which I know that you can do. But it depends on how you voice that as well. Like,
yeah, I guess if you just reel off all this stuff, I haven't done this, and this, and you look really lazy, then of course people are going to be like, what the fuck, like, what were you doing? Like, have you just been like sitting there drinking tea? Like,
yeah.
It took me a long time to learn though that I didn't have to do everything in a shift.
Yeah.
As a grad, I practice very differently to how I practice now, mostly because I'm a cold hard bitch now. But
and I think as a grad, you always feel like you need to impress, or you feel like you feel like you should be doing everything because you're like, I've just come off and like I should be doing all this. I should be capable.
And how many, like, I don't know what the percentage is or what it is in terms of like the statistics, but how many girls get to the end of their grad year or grad plus one and they leave? They're burnt out. so badly because they've picked up all the double shifts because they want to make a great impression on the nun, and they've done doubles and they've worked long hours and they've burnt themselves out completely, and they're not even 2 years into their nursing and midwifery.
I think that definitely happens within the hospital environment, because you do get so caught up, and it seems like no matter where you work, everyone seems chronically understaffed all the time. So it is, you know, although it's not kind of is expected, like they do want you to work, you know, they get shitty when you call in sick, and yeah.
And I think it's important for people listening that are becoming midwives, or they're at the beginning of their career as a midwife, is it's okay to take time off for yourself. It's okay to say no to the double shift, because your colleagues are going to be worse off if you stay for a double and you're exhausted and you're no help at all. It's okay to say, I only want to work my allocated times. I don't want to come in despite how short-staffed you are, or this is the only day I have to spend with my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my dog or my cat or my kids or whatever it is. And you get to a point where you're so burnt out that you can't even function at home.
Yeah.
I think on a smaller level, it's important to say, I don't want to do that learning package yet. I'm learning enough as a grad. I don't want to learn this or this or this. I mean, there's some skills that I think you should pick up, but not in your grad year. You don't have to. You're learning enough. You've got enough on your plate.
And they're working so hard, and they're so frazzled as it is. You know, when the new grads start, they're so
upskill though.
They're so frazzled.
And you find them in the break room in a pile of tears.
Crying. Yeah.
I remember doing that. I remember when a patient fell over and I thought it was my fault and I cried.
Yeah.
What do you girls do outside of work for self-care?
Self-care, apart from like catching up with people, lots of walks. I love like going out in nature with that very noisy dog. Like, like beach. Like, I'm such a beach girl. Like, lockdown killed me just because I am in a city, so beach was not in my 5Ks. So the fact I couldn't be near the water apart from like the dirty creek, which is not the same. Like, yeah,
For everyone listening, the creep she's talking about.
Yeah. So for me, I've even just sitting on the beach, listening to the waves, like that for me, like chatting to people, trying to look after myself, as in, you know, go for a swim or just some yoga, some Pilates, exercise, you know, all that stuff. But also just spending time with people, doing those Zoom calls with your family or friends, or going on a date with your partner. Having those days where you go, fuck it, I'm just going to sit and binge watch every episode of whatever the fuck I want to watch, you know, of something, and literally do nothing but be like a zombie for 8 hours and eat pizza and chips and chocolate. Like, that is self-care too, in my opinion. Yes.
I've not mentioned mani-pedis or face masks or bubble baths.
Oh, no. You know what? I do love a mani-pedi, but
just like that seems to be the first thing that.
Yeah, I do love a mani-pedi, but I haven't had one for a long time because, well, COVID, and also now they're so hot on infection control. Can't really be there with my nail polish. Yeah, but also another thing I thought like that we should include in self-care is looking after and I know people go, oh, look after your back at work, and you're like, yeah. But honestly, like, if you ain't putting that bed up when you're trying to express someone or like deliver a baby, and you know, like your back gets sore. And I always think that about the nursery we work in, like the cots are just like one level. So, you know, when you're changing nappies, and then when I've worked at this like beautiful private hospital that has $1 gazillion, and their cots are like ergonomic. Yeah. So every baby cot has basically got like a little up and down. I don't know what you call it, like an up and down, like it's self-adjustable. So every cot that goes in every room is self-adjustable, as in it can go up or down for...
On the postnatal ward?
Yeah, on the postnatal ward. So all the babies' cots go up and down in terms of height, and they also can tilt, sort of like the actual cot can tilt a little bit. So if you've got a refluxy baby, so it doesn't have to, like, you know, that can tilt a little bit, so it's a little bit of height. So that's really nice, so that, you know, all these parents are not having to do weird angles, and you can go up or down. And I mean, yeah, obviously they have private, so there's a bit more money, you can afford that. But even just little things like that, try and make your workspace as best you can so that you're not killing yourself. And especially I think in nursing as well, where you're lifting a lot of patients or things like that, like you've got to remember that you get, I don't know, most of the time we can't even find a bloody slide sheet. But yeah, you do. You get one body, you get one back, like look after it. And I know it's always like, oh, do this, but it is so important. And I know it's hard when you're working to try and find time to do exercise, but also as well, like I feel better when I'm regularly exercising and feeling strong. And yeah.
What do you do, Penny?
Oh, I love my exercise. So I love playing sport. I play tennis and netball, and I just love it because if I've had a bad day and I can go out and just get the ball and give someone an elbow on the court, then it's great. Yes, I'm very competitive. I also just love footy because unfortunately not with COVID, but pre-COVID I used to go to a footy match and just yell at my team. And also, exercise, PT when I can. Just try and eat healthy, and sometimes then I'll just go on the couch and actually get out my computer and be a little nerd and play a game and
do something.
Other times I'll get on the 80s mix and just crank it up and dance away.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Also, telling my other half about my day as well because he's like a fake midwife now because he thinks he knows stuff and he tries to have
knows so much.
Yeah, he tries to have a conversation. He's like, oh yeah, remember when the head came out and the cord and they needed to do the thing on the face. I'm like, yes. I'm like, what? You think you're...
He does. He seems to know.
But it's good because then, like, he can, you say, oh, this is my bad day. And he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds really hard. So it's good to have that communication with you guys as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to eat, hence why the exercise.
Yes.
Hey, what about you, Hannah? Do you do anything in particular?
I really like to sit on the balcony.
I didn't even hear
That was have sex, which is actually a very good stress reliever. Do it. But stay safe.
I like to sit on the balcony with a coffee and a book. And I'm going to admit it, I read crappy romances just because they're so far removed from real that I'm in a completely
Oh my God. I do love, I love a good book, not necessarily that, but I will actually do a little like cross promotion here. So one of my girlfriends set up, she does it's like a podcast and a website called The Good Bits. And it's all about like women like taking back their ownership of their sexuality. And and so it features all these different erotic novelists. So if anyone's into that, have a little listen to Good Bits. They are also on Spotify and they have an Instagram too.
There you go.
So that is all about self-care in looking after your lady ways.
Sit still.
Oh dear, I love reading, but I'm one of those people that needs like a book. Like I can't be reading on a Kindle or whatever they're called. Yeah, like I have to have like a physical book in my hand, and I feel like I'm a big I'll read travel stories and things like that just because
I try.
What do you do, Laura?
What do I?
What do you do?
What do I do? Well, because I've got kids, that sort of takes up some of my time. I wouldn't count it as self-care, though. But if the kids are home, I make a point of going out to an exercise class or doing something that gets me out of the house where I'm not driving to work because I feel like I'm always just driving to work. So, I try and exercise. I don't really do much. Sometimes I just sit and stare. I put music on and I just...
It's like turn your brain off.
Yeah. Because I'm someone who struggles to stay still and not do things. So sometimes it's a struggle for me to sit and read or sit and look at, even watching a show. Like, I don't think I've ever sat down and binge watched something and not got up frequently during it.
I mean, you still need to fill your wine glass and get chips.
No, but it sounds really weird, but sort of doing little mindless things. I sort of keep a bit of a messy room. So all my clothes are on, I call it a limbo chair. You know when you like, they're not
I like
dirty
when
and they're
you
not-
wear something once, but you haven't hung it back up.
But I
and you're like,
I sort of find it a little. It does sound weird. I find it soothing to like hang my clothes up and do things that aren't making my mind hurt.
Like a monotonous thing.
Yes, something monotonous, and like putting laundry on or doing little things. You know, going out to check them out. They're all these like tiny little things, but I find like it really helps me unwind. The biggest problem I have is coming home really desperately needing to unwind, and I've got kids like at me in each
like
ear.
in your face, so you just need like space, sort of.
They're
that's
not being
chill
rude
time.
or mean, or it's not like they've left the house a mess. If it's like a weekend, it's not anything like that. It's just like I've literally spent the entire day
like surrounded by people coming at you.
Yeah. And one of the things that my youngest child has picked up on is she says that at the end of a shift, she's noticed that I can't put words together. Like I can't put a sentence together to say to them, can you please empty the dishwasher? I'm like, the thing with the stuff and can you
Were
do
you
the
having
thing?
a stroke?
Yeah, you have like all these TIA.
No, I think I'm just so overwhelmed, and I am quite chatty. Like in my job as well, I'm quite chatty. I'm a chatty midwife.
I think all of us are guilty of that.
Yeah, but I find when I get home, that part of my brain just fucking switches off, and I can't explain simple procedures or to say to the kids, put your lunchbox on the counter when you come in. I'm like, can you put the thing on the thing with the thing?
Well, they say that often you read posts about that we give so much of ourselves at work that we can't give anything in our personal life to our family and
lost
friends.
my ability. So I find that if I say to the kids, give me 10 minutes, just give me 10 minutes where you're not looking at me.
Can't even look at me. Yeah.
Does that work for the dogs?
No, dogs are very different.
But I think pets are like self-care. I feel like they're not too, like, unless you've got an annoying dog, they're not really too demanding. They can just sit, you can pat their head, you know. I think that's,
I've got 2 pugs. So they sleep 99% of the time. So if I do sit down, they usually pick up quite quickly that, she's not ready to feed us. And they'll sit with me. So I think they pick up on that.
and then they say people who have pets have like less heart attacks or something, or they're less stressed, or like, they're like more relaxed because, you know, the pets relax them.
Finding an outlet, like if you're at the gym or you're dancing or you're stretching or you're punching or you're cycling or whatever it is.
Just anything where you can go and like not think and just be like,
just something that you really enjoy, because I find as, you know, healthcare professionals, we you know, was it a lecture? I had a lecture at uni about how we gain 10 kilos in the first year.
100%, I will agree with that.
And I was like, what? Because we don't take the time to go to the gym. I fucking hate gyms. I hate going to the gym. I don't go to the gym.
But it's more like taking the time to do something for yourself, do some exercise, or it is hard to eat well because although, you know, not unfortunate, I guess, but when people think, oh, I get a gift for the nurses, it is always a box of chocolates or a plate of cake, which is great. I always think, oh, that's really love and sweet. But when you go to work and you're just all this stuff, or when you're like, oh God, I don't have time to have a snack, I'll just have a bit of toast or some cheese and crackers. Like,
then you get starving.
Yeah.
And I'll have 3 bowls of crunchy nut cornflakes.
Yeah. Oh, love a bit of crunchy nut cornflakes.
Yeah, too. When you work full time, you come home and, you know, you've got to get ready, you've got to make dinner, and then you've got to go out, you know, to do this or this. You rarely get that day off. When the day off comes, you just.
And I think that's another shift work thing as well, because you're not working a typical 9 to 5. So, you know, people would be like, okay, I'm going to get up at 6, go to the gym, have breakfast, and I have my lunch at 12. Then we don't have that set schedule.
No. Sometimes you don't eat.
No, you're stopping your dinner at 8 o'clock.
Or I'll get up in the morning because I hate the mornings with a passion. I'll get up, and if I don't have food prepared, if I don't have a pre-soaked oat something in the fridge from the night before that I've done, then I don't eat at all. And
I'm on the same.
Yeah.
I cannot stand mornings.
But like,
I'm like, I would rather sleep than get up half an hour earlier just to have a slice of toast. Like, I will be the person, like, if I have to leave my house at 6:30, my alarm will go off at 6:15. I will get out of bed. I will have my clothes already there at the end. So literally all I have to do is put my clothes on, brush my teeth. Like, if I'm working 4 days in a row, like by the 4th day, my hair has not been brushed for 4 days. Like, it's just in a bun on top of my head. And like, you know, like when you take, like when you take your scrunchie out and your hair just like stays on your head.
and they're like, you're in healthcare, you should be washing. Fuck, I don't have time. My hair takes like a day to dry.
Masks, now I don't have to wear makeup.
Oh, see, I have never been a makeup wearer to work. I just can't. I can't be dealing with it. Like when I see those girls come in at 6 a.m. or whatever, and they've got a full face of makeup, I'm like, how do? Yes, I'm like, how do you even? Like, I can't.
So I don't look as pale and yuck. And
My theory is sleep over everything in the mornings.
You know, like it's really funny when someone at work who you've just become friends with, they're like, oh, you know, I'll add you on Insta, and they're scrolling down your feed, and they're like, this doesn't look like you at all. And I'm like, yeah, that's like me. Like when I'm not at work, like when I brush my hair, put makeup on and don't wear scrubs. That's what I look like in real life, not like this.
Carly was at my place. We were having drinkies. I think everyone else was working and stuff. So Carly and I were smashing our bottles of wine. I actually got a little bit drunk that
Yeah, I did too. It's because we drank 2 bottles of wine each.
So anyway, we took a photo of each other and then we added these crazy filters.
oh, I love that beauty face filter.
Which isn't even, it's just like beauty face to the max. So you look kind of like a cartoon character because your skin is so smooth.
We're like, edit, yes, 100 of that. And you're like, ooh, 100 of that. And
Your
100.
eyes ginormous and you kind of look like a baby or something. Like it's
I
weird.
did the before and after, and I was like, we just don't look like this. But anyway, it was pretty funny. That was part of our self-care.
That was self-care. And another self-care, take your bloody sick days. Like, we get allocated for a reason. And I was talking to a nurse the other day in one of my jobs, and then she was saying to me, she was like, oh yeah, I've got 3,000. This is not a joke. 3,000. I'm sure she said 3,000. She's pretty old, and she's worked at this. She's
60 and has been
she's
20.
And she's been working for the same place. And and I was just like, is this a joke? Like, well, maybe she said 300. Either way, it's still a lot. Yeah, it's still a lot. I was just, how do you have like that? I was just like, that is insane. Oh yeah, never take sick. What? Why not? Like, we have it. The mental health days, you just need a day off sometimes.
The other day, I'm so glad I took that day off because my fucking cat died suddenly. You know, I would have had to, had I gone to work, I would have had to come home.
I took a week off when my dog died because I couldn't function. I was just like, I can't even.
This is part of it. You see so many of, new nurses and midwives
who feel bad about taking time off.
I did as a grad. I used to feel terrible calling up sick.
It's the worst. And it's this, I guess it's this culture, have you heard that nurses eat their young? Have you heard that?
I've heard that. We will discuss that on a bullying post as well. We're going to more.
I think that sort of coincides with like, I'm scared if such and such answers the phone and I tell him I'm sick. Or you don't even have to say why you're sick. I have -3 sick leave because I take sick leave for different reasons. I'm not always sick, but my kids are sick and I don't want to bring to work what my kid potentially has. Like, and I'm caring for them. Or, like I need a day off because, I've spent last night crying, or once I had to take sick leave because I had period pain that was so bad I like literally could not move. Like and we have to look after ourselves, and that's part of self-care. You're given this wonderful, you have this wonderful job where you're looking after people and you're loving it, but then all of a sudden you don't love it anymore because you're not looking.
Yeah. And I think if you get to that point where you are hating going to work and you're not loving it, and you just, when you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I've got to go work. Like, and it's just awful. You're like, okay, something needs to change. Like
day. I had a panic attack walking into it.
Yeah, whether it's like you need to just take a few days off and reassess what you're doing. You know, maybe you need to go in a different direction. Maybe you need to cut your hours out. And then that again goes to how there are so many options for what we can do work-wise. But if you're feeling like that, then you're not going to be looking after the people at work and you're not looking after yourself.
And just speak up and tell someone, because it's not okay. It's not. Oh, I was going to say it's not okay to be okay, but that didn't come out. It's okay to
not allowed to be okay.
It's okay to not be okay. And by telling someone that you're not feeling great, they might actually respond and say, I'm not feeling great too.
Yeah.
So you're opening up, more
How many
pathways to
DNMs
friendship.
have we had, like, in the drug room? I don't know why. They always seem to happen in the drug room.
Yeah, it's because you go in and this door locks behind you and you're just like, yes, yeah. But also sometimes I think, like if you can tell that someone's not okay and you're like, are you okay? And I feel like everyone goes, yeah, I'm fine. Like, if you sort of know they're not fine, like, I mean, obviously you can't force someone, but sort of just be like, okay, but I'm here. Like, just open up the window or whatever so they know they can talk to you. Because I feel like you can tell when people are not fine. And
They don't engage in conversation. And I've worked with girls on the ward before where I'm like, are they...
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it gets to the point, and then that's when you find people, crying in the corner in the drug room because they're just like, and you're like, oh my God, you don't want anyone to feel like that.
Or people, things get missed because they weren't focusing for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember when I was going through my divorce, that was fun. I think I came to work and cried every single day. Yeah. Like I could not mentally midwife. I couldn't midwife.
Yeah.
Like I was but I couldn't take time off either. Like I felt like I couldn't take time off. And I would come to work and I would sit at the nurse's desk and someone would say, hi, Laura. And I'd be like, crying.
Yeah. And it's hard because it's not like a job where you can just go and shuffle papers and not deal with anyone. Like you've got to interact and you've got to be positive. And
And it took who was it? She doesn't work with us anymore. I remember her taking me into the tea room and she's like, you cannot come to work like this. Like you're unwell. Like you're mentally unwell. You're not capable of being here.
And I feel like we're always trying to do, we're like, no, I can do it. You know what? Like it's okay to not do it. It's okay to be like, no.
We're terrible at saying no to ourselves, to our colleagues and to like our family and friends. We just got no capacity to say it.
I always feel like, do you say that? Like nurses make the worst part. Like you'll be like, and I feel like even as a kid, so my mum was a nurse and I feel like as, you could be like on death's door and you're fine.
Yeah.
Have a Panadol, you're right. Stop. You'll be all right.
The other day, and my son's going, Mom, there's blood. And I would come down. I was like, I'll just put an ice cube on it. They're like, what? I'm like, just put an ice cube on it. Wrap an ice cube in.
But also that it's okay to say no to going out. When people are like, oh, come to this. I feel it's okay. Like if you're just, yes, it's great to be social and see people. But if you're just like, you know what? I just need a moment. It's okay to be like, you know what? No, sorry, I can't come to this. I can't do that. I just need.
If you've done 8 shifts in a row and you don't want to go out on your first day off, don't go out on your first day off.
I can stay at home and start drinking at 10. I just said don't drink.
You know what? Do what works for you. I've come through phases of not drinking for 6 weeks. I've also gone through coming home and having shots of tequila or whatever I've literally got here. Okay, people, that is it for another episode. So we hope you all look after yourself. Like us on Instagram, HeadOnViewPodcast. If you have any subjects or anything you want us to talk about, ask us, DM us, follow, subscribe. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye, bitches.
And be sure to tune in next time for more laughs, thrills, and real stories from real midwives on Head On View.
I didn't know it was still recording.